Hello everyone, I am making a short SQL video today. We're gonna be talking about error handling in SQL. We're gonna be focusing on using try and catch blocks, um, a couple of keywords, GOTO, and also we're gonna be talking about um, creating labels. And I'm gonna show you how all these three combined would make uh, execution of long scripts much simpler and catching errors much simpler. So first, I'm just gonna declare two variables. I'm gonna declare uh, a variable called error, and I'm gonna set that to the system uh, error counter. If I execute this, let me show you. This should be the default value should be 0. This is basically just a uh, simple counter that counts errors that may happen during execution. So if I execute that, default value for it is 0. So let me set it back to here. Also declaring SQL, I'm going to be using some dynamic SQL to generate some errors. And let's get started. So the basic structure for try and catch block is as follows. Let me go back down here. It is uh, begin, try. I like to build the structure first before adding the script that I wanna execute and try. And here would this is where would the code be uh, code that you planning to execute or run. And then we go to the catch. So we say begin catch, and also you put your all your error handling uh, messages, counters all in here, and you go back and say end catch. Okay. So let me just comment all of this out and go back here. So in the first try and catch block, it's just a simple code. I'm just setting the SQL variable to select one, and I'm executing that. So that should just bring back a row with just a single value of 1. Okay, and so on. So this is what I'm doing for all three try and catch blocks. So I'm telling it execute this code. If no errors happen here, just go ahead and print this statement. This is just for my own uh, checks at the end. I don't have to check every single line. I would just, once I see this statement printed, that means automatically means that everything above it, any code above it, executed with no errors at all. And in the catch block, here I say print error message. This is a system, so whenever we run a code that we know would fail, such as this, so select star, we know that this is gonna fail. This is a system generated error message, and these are really helpful. Sometimes you can't know where the error happened if you have a lot of code going on here, if you're executing a large script inside of here. So reading the system messages is definitely the most helpful thing that you want to see. So I come back here and I tell it print out to me this error message. But the thing is, when we run this code without the try and catch block, the execution of the rest of the script is gonna fail. So if step 1 fails, everything else would break. It's not gonna keep going to step 2 and so on. So that's the good thing about try and catch blocks. If you know that there is an error that may happen and it's not critical, the script can still continue with execution even if an error happened. This is what you would do. You would just print out the error so that you would know what exactly happened, where the error happened, and you can go back and fix it later. But you don't want the execution to stop. You want it to still keep executing the rest of your script. So for example, we know that this is gonna fail, and if we run this without the try and catch block, it's not gonna move on to the next block. So if we run this with our try and catch, what we're gonna see is we're gonna see this message still, which is getting printed from this statement. And I also added this here just to know that this is where the error happened. It's the first step. It happened from this specific code that we executed up here. And I'm setting my error counter to 1. Okay. So default is 0. I'm just telling it, hey, set this to 1. And we are gonna go ahead and execute. So what we would see now is we're gonna see this error message right here, but everything else would run smoothly. Because as we can see here, select 2 is gonna work, select 3 is also gonna work. So let's go ahead and execute. And let's see here. Okay, I see what happens. So when this is set to 0, but this is actually an error counter, so it adds uh, an extra error to that. So what we can do is we can just, for example, just go ahead and declare that at 0. So this will be 0 now for sure, and what I was doing before is basically like double counting. So I'm counting the system errors and I'm adding 1 on top of that. So we don't want that. We want this to be 0. If it passes through this catch, that means there's an error that occurred, and it's also gonna set this to 1. So let's go ahead and execute. Go back here. And let's see what's going on. Step 3, if error, oh, okay, I see why. So let's set this at 2, and if we go ahead and execute, there we go. So, as we can see here, first step failed, but my execution still didn't fail. My execution completed successfully. And when I go to the messages tab, I can see that, yeah, this step failed, but it still moved on to the rest of the script. So it was able to execute step 2 because we know that this is correct. This is not going to fail. And step 3 as well got executed successfully. And we are done. For example, if we know that, let's see, let's set this so that it also generates an error. So in this case, this is also a test case that we may use. If we have 2 pieces of the script that failed, we don't want to execute this critical piece. So we don't want to execute step 3 if both of these steps failed, 1 and 2. So in this case, we can set our error variable to 2, and with an if statement, we're saying that if this error variable equals 2, which we know is 2, because here we're setting it to 1, and then we're adding 1 on 1, so that means that now at this point, the error variable equals 2. And this is where the GOTO function is super helpful. So we're saying that if this error variable is 2, do not run this. So even though this would run successfully, we don't want to execute it because a lot of errors happened early on with our script. We don't want to execute this. Let's say this is really important and this would change a lot of values in our database. We don't want to execute it if these two steps failed. So when we say go to terminate and we set our label at the very end of our script, that means if this gets triggered, it's not gonna do anything else. It's gonna skip all of the code that we have and it's just gonna go all the way to the bottom. Okay, so let's go ahead and execute. And again, no errors happen, and that's why we use try and catch. Everything gets executed successfully, but when we go back here, we know what happened exactly. So I can do this, can tell it to print step 3 did not execute. And if we have multiple statements after an if statement, we need to add that into again and end. Otherwise, it's not gonna print this to us. What I would do is just execute this, and once this gets executed, as I mentioned before, it's gonna go to the end of the script. Okay, so we need to do that. So just print this to me first because we know that this is not gonna get executed, and then go to the terminate label. So let's execute. So now we should see an extra statement here, which is this one. There we go. So we got the two error messages. So we got the error message from the system. Let's go back here. Got the error message from the system. We got the statement that we wanted to print out so we can debug later and know where the error happened exactly. As you can see here, if we do not print this statement, we're not gonna know where exactly the error started. We're just gonna see this message here, which is not too helpful. So that's why we need to have a statement like this so that we can go back later and debug and know the root cause of the issue. So again, let's execute that, must specify, so that's the system error message, that's our statement. Another system error message from step 2, our statement, and also our statement that we set right here. So we know that for sure none of this code ran. It basically just stopped the execution of the script. And that's about it for try and catch blocks, labels, and GOTO.